What up, everybody? YouTube Live. How's it going? How's it going? Ah. Alrighty then. Alright. Today is Thursday, and you know what that means. It's the arrival of the new episode of Star Trek Discovery. Yes, I love this show. So here I am again. Here I am again on my own. Okay, so let me make sure real quick that YouTube does have this live stream on, because sometimes they kind of mess with us a little bit. But once I double check, it's always good to double check, because you never know. It's always good to just make sure. Yes, I love this show. Even though it's kind of weird listening to my own voice. Okay, yes, we are on. Oh boy. But by the way, this review, as always, is full of spoilers. It's mainly for those of you, my fellow Star Trek Discovery fans, who have also watched today's episode. And this week is interesting because right now we have the new episode of Star Trek Discovery, right? That has arrived on CBS All Access. And then guess what happens tomorrow? Tomorrow is none other than the premiere of The Mandalorian. Oh, how lucky are we? We should feel totally lucky at the fact that this week on Halloween of all seasons. I mean, I like horror movies and horror shows just as much as the next guy, but we're not getting horror this week. We're getting the most awesome sci-fi. One night after the next. I mean, one night after the other, I should say. So Star Trek Discovery tonight, and then tomorrow night, or tomorrow morning, I should say, on Friday, is The Mandalorian Season 2 premiere. And hopefully I will, come back to also give you my thoughts about that as well. I just want to say real quick, before we delve into this episode 3, because I just finished watching it, and I gotta say, man, I just want to give a shout out, 1,000 credits to whoever it is that, whose job is to cut the trailers at the end of each episode. Okay, they're like, next week on Star Trek Discovery, and I get all these montages, right? Brief clips, flashes of like scenes, and it's a trailer basically. It's a teaser trailer for next week's episode. That's how it is with every show, or most shows. But the way that's done on Star Trek Discovery is it's like theatrical trailer quality stuff, man. I mean, like, it really gets you stoked, you know what I'm saying? For next week. I'm like, yes, bring it on. I'm already thinking about next Thursday because of that, short teaser trailer at the end of tonight's episode. But yeah, let's dive in here. Episode 3, titled People of Earth. And so it starts out with Michael Burnham finally reuniting with the Discovery. And can we talk a bit about Michael Burnham's hair for a second? My God, her new hair looks amazing, okay? I've always thought that Sonequa Martin Green, that's her name, right? Sonequa Martin Green. I've always thought that she was hot. I've always thought she was attractive. And even on The Walking Dead, the few seasons that she was on there, I'm like, dang, this girl is really, really hella sexy. But that new hair, I mean, I just died for that, man. That just is like, yes, I worship that hair. She really looks good. She makes that hair look good, okay? So yeah, just a quick side side note there. um, so the episode starts out with her apparently like logging in, like the freaking captain's log, like oh, keeping diary journal, like oh, I miss you, Discovery. I've tried looking for you every day, and then they meet. All right. Long story short, they get reunited, and it cracks me up that the episode spends about, I want to say 2 minutes, yeah, possibly 2 minutes of them having hugging parties. Maybe 2 minutes is an exaggeration, but I mean, like she was hugging everybody, and I was like looking at my watch. I was like, can we get this rolling already? Can we? I get it. I get it. I get it. You haven't seen each other in a year, even more. You know, you miss each other. I get it. But this scene, you don't have to show her hugging everybody on the bridge, but they did, and it's like, I gotta say, even as a fan of Star Trek Discovery, the whole thing with her hugging and her reuniting, her like, oh, tears and everybody, and the whole thing with her handing, not really handing, maybe like allowing, maybe that's the word I was looking for, or maybe permitting Saru to be the captain, and she said, I don't want to be the number one in the beginning. That whole thing in the beginning, okay? It's a bit cheesy. It's a bit over dramatic. Even I, as a fan, I gotta say, that's a bit too much. I was, the whole Saru's like, it would be my honor, and then he goes on this vibrato speech, right? Like, I get it. The speeches are necessary when you watch in any Star Trek installment, but man, maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm a bad guy for saying this, but I was like this. Oh, keep it going. I get it. Now, okay, let's move on. Check please. Next. So, but hey. Saru being the captain, I think, if you ask my opinion, it totally makes sense. It's natural. I mean, it's the natural progression. Saru over 3 seasons has proven his wisdom. And he has learned a lot about leadership. In previous seasons, there were times when he was challenged, challenged to prove himself as a leader. And he didn't always succeed. Sometimes he stumbled. But I think of all the characters, including Burnham, Saru is the one that is always willing to learn. And he's long patient. Even in tonight's episode, after Burnham pulls that stunt with Book, that also, I have that on my note, because when Burnham does that, I'm thinking like, not a very good move there, not a very wise move, Burnham, or Michael, I should say, not a very smart move. I get it, you have to do that, and this is your thing, and in your head, this is what's best for Star Trek Discovery, or Discovery, I should say. This is what's best for the crew. But you gotta, you can't acknowledge Saru as the captain in the beginning of the story, only to undermine him later on. Like, it's just like you're contradicting yourself here. Either you respect and acknowledge that Saru is the captain and he makes the decision. He's the judgment maker. Or you're like, yeah, I don't care about Saru. I'm not gonna tell him about my plan. I'm gonna, do this under his radar. It's like, come on, which one is it? Which is it? So, but of course, like I said, Saru is long patient, and Saru himself says on this episode, like Michael Burnham has never let us down. So even if she's doing this, without my saying so, she's got to have a good reason for it. And in the end, they did kind of reconcile. You can tell Saru's a little bit hurt. His pride, like you can tell he wants to be angry at Michael for undermining him, but at the same time, it's like Michael's plan actually worked. However unorthodox and rebellious it looked. So yeah, Saru being the captain, it just makes sense, man. It just makes total sense. And Michael ending up being number one, I didn't see that coming. I thought she rejected being number one. She rejected being the leader in any shape or form. And so I thought it was like, oh, maybe she's just gonna be a courier with Book, the rest of her days, because that's all she knows now. But no, of course not, because there's this freaking mystery with the dilithium and freaking mystery with the burn. It's like, could somebody just tell me what happened with the burn? Like, oh my god. The curiosity kills this cat, definitely. Let's see, what else do I have on my note here? Earth. So they go back to Earth, and remember, this is Earth 930 years later. This is not Earth in 2258. So this is not the Earth that they're familiar with. And Earth, if you've seen the episode, Earth is very hostile. Apparently the burn they keep mentioning, that's question marks on the burn, has resulted in Earth, installing this a force field. And apparently they have enemy called Wen, who is very resilient and relentless at acquiring dilithium at all costs. So Discovery is caught in the middle of all that. In the middle of that conflict. So, long story short, again, if you've seen the episode, pretty much it ends with the leader of the United Earth Force, I guess that's what they're called, and Wen, who apparently is a human. Boy, he really did fool me. It ends with Earth, Wen negotiating with each other, with Saru as the mediator. And you know what that means, right? You know what that means. It means the show is telling us, the audiences, in its own way, like, hey, this is why Starfleet and Federation, this is why Federation is necessary. It's like the United Nations, where countries or nations come together in New York and they listen to each other. They open dialogue and they open their grievances, and there's like, hey, can you help me with this? Or shall I export my commodity to you guys with that? And stuff like that. As opposed to the other option, which is war. And so that's what it is. It's because, the absence of Federation, you can really feel that, like when you see that scene of negotiation, it hits you. Wow, they really do need the Federation to help situations like this. It's not just about exploring where you've never gone before, but actually making deals, talking to each other, listening, like maybe understanding a little bit more, instead of firing lasers or phasers every 5 minutes or so. I think in this episode, it makes it clear for us, the audiences, why it's necessary for the rest of the season, for the characters to not only figure out what happened with the burn, but also to figure out how to reform or bring back the Federation, which is clearly needed. There's one side note I forgot to mention. Michael and Book's work dynamic. When they do that whole secret plan underneath Saru's nose, right? To counter Wen. That scene on Book's ship when Michael and Book were exchanging their experiences as couriers. They're doing it in words, in stories, or like codes that you and I don't understand because it's their experiences. It reminds me of excuse me, something's in my throat. It reminds me of the Avengers. You remember that scene when Hawkeye and Black Widow say to each other as they're fighting the villains? They tell each other like, wow, I think Hawkeye says this, man, doesn't this remind you of, what's the country again? Bulgaria? I think it was Bulgaria. But anyway, Black Widow says like, wow, you and I remember Bulgaria differently. Something like that. So it's like an inside joke, inside experiences, and so Michael and Book says like, oh, are we gonna do this thing? And Book is like, nah, that thing, kind of ruined my nose. How about we do that thing instead? Oh, I don't like that thing, Michael says. Like, so it's like, it makes me frustrated watching. I mean, I was entertained by them, being all playful as they do their thing, but at the same time, I'm like, what is it? What is that thing you guys are talking about? Let me in on it. Stop it with the inside thing, because we don't have, we the audiences we didn't get to see those scenes with you doing these experiences in the past or the past year. So it's fun, but it's also kind of like, oh, because only Michael and Book would know, because only they would know. And as I'm winding down to my final notes here, I'm really concerned about Detmer. Clearly the writers are planning something with her. Detmer, I believe she's the navigator, right? She's one of the navigators. She's experiencing something, and you've seen it kind of like growing slowly but surely from last week's episode. Something's bugging her. I don't know if you guys know, let me know about it in the comment section below. But my fear is that the writers might have some plan to make her maybe sabotage the crew in some way or the other. I mean, it's not like she's brainwashed or anything, but I think she might slowly becoming somebody who's losing it a little bit. But I don't know what causes it. I'm just worried. And you know what? I like that the writers are giving this character and this actress, albeit very slow, but her own arc, or at least it's going that direction. But I hope it doesn't end up with them having to, at the end, to write her off or to kill her off. I hope they don't make her a potential villain because of the thing that's bugging her. I hope that's not the direction. I get, I like that they're giving her something, but I hope it doesn't end up that way. Do you see what I'm getting at? So, but yeah, that's it. That's all I have about Detmer. The whole thing with the teen genius. We gotta talk a bit about the teen genius named Adira, I believe, who turns out to be Admiral Tal. So, and of course, Saru has the explanation at the end with the symbiotes. And clearly from the teaser trailer for next week's episode, this teen genius Adira or Admiral Tal will be a recurring role, and I think she will be also Stamets' prodigy or Stamets' muse, because Admiral Tal, aka Adira, is hella genius, and you could tell by looking at her that she has this deep curiosity, like science, childlike. Like I really want, I want to know everything there is to know. That kind of curiosity, and it's like very hungry, and that would make the most perfect muse for Stamets, who doesn't seem to have any problem sharing his knowledge. I mean, to Adira. I don't get the impression that Stamets was annoyed by Adira. Which is interesting because, and understandable because Stamets already got an annoyance named Jet Reno. So, so that role is already filled. But I think Stamets sees in Adira maybe himself a little bit, because they're both geniuses, and he's probably thinking like, maybe I can pass my wisdom down to this grasshopper. As far as Admiral Tal's role in the whole larger picture of the mystery about the burn and the mystery about the Federation, we shall see about that. I don't know yet. And lastly, going to Earth and seeing that big tree. Oh my god, that tree is huge. Obviously, I don't think it's an actual tree. It looks CG to me, maybe. But that's a massive looking tree, and it's hilarious how Tilly and the rest of the guys are like hugging the tree. It's like, oh, I miss you. 930 years later, the tree is still there. Come on. Come on. I mean, I know trees can grow old, but 930 years? I don't know, man. Any of you tree experts out there, convince me otherwise. Because, I don't know, what's the oldest tree? It's probably the Redwood National Forest, right? Or Yosemite. Some of the oldest trees are there. But I don't know if they get to freaking thousands of years, man. Hundreds maybe. So, and lastly, this is my last note. I'm glad that they have that scene in tonight's episode where Tilly feels immense sadness over the fact that they have jumped 930 years into the future, and so she's like, oh my god, all my families are dead. Their grandchildren's grandchildren are dead. 930 years, man. I mean, if we jump 90 years, there's a chance that some of my family member could still be alive, because people are living much longer these days than people in Japan. Some of the oldest people are in Japan and they're 120 years or so. But this is 930 years we're talking about. So everybody's gone. I mean, I'm glad the tree is still there, but what I'm getting at is I'm glad that the writers set aside just for that one moment of Tilly and Michael Burnham, finally realizing that it's finally sinking in the reality that everything they know, everybody they love is all gone. So I'm glad that they have that. I think if I were in their shoes, I don't know if I could get over that fact. I mean, I think I would be bawling a few nights, It would take me probably a few nights to get over the reality that, oh my god, I don't have a sister anymore, I don't have a dad or a mom anymore, I never get to see my sister's children or sister's children, grandchildren, it would really hit me hard. Not just like in a few minutes of scenes that we see in tonight's episode, but I'm glad that they set aside just for that, because you need to have that. You need to have that reckoning. You know, they're human beings, and they pretty much have dedicated their lives to be on that ship, basically. So, Stress Free K, a redwood can grow to 800 and 1,500 years old, according to Google. Holy crap, really? I have no idea. Wow, I guess yeah. I guess you're right, Stress Free K. I guess if you and I jump 930 years into the future, then we would probably see the same redwood tree, you know, that's around today. So there's a chance, there's a probability that that's likely to happen. So thank you for that information. So anyway, I think I've ranted long enough. That's all I have on my notes. Another great episode, in my opinion. And please come back tomorrow, because I will be also doing like this, a live review after screening or watching the premiere episode of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. So thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in tonight on this review of Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 3. And make sure you subscribe to my channel, press that like button, ring that bell, and if you can help support me, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. Subscribe. See you tomorrow on The Mandalorian. Let's rock this.